Good evening, and welcome. Tonight, imagine a mountain shaped by quiet hands. A mountain, not sharp or lonely, but softly terraced, step after step, as though some patient giant once pressed green ribbons into the hillside and left them there for the mist to sleep upon. Each morning, before the sun fully lifted, above the eastern ridges, pale fog drifted over the tea fields in long silver scarves. It gathered in the low places, touched the leaves one by one, darkened the stone paths, and then, slowly, almost without noticing, the whole mountain began to breathe warmth. The villagers of Kiyomura believed that warmth came from underground springs. They said hidden waters moved through mineral stone beneath the roots of the tea bushes, keeping frost away, even in the deepest winter. But Aya had never been entirely sure. Aya was 17, though on misty mornings she felt much older, especially when she woke before the bells and carried baskets through the terraces. While the village still slept, she lived with her grandmother in a narrow wooden house near the upper fields, where the floorboards creaked softly and dried tea leaves hung from the ceiling beams. Their home smelled of smoke, rain-soaked straw, old paper, and the green sweetness of leaves warming over coals. Aya knew every step of the mountain farm. She knew where the stone stairs leaned after rain, which terrace held the sweetest spring harvest, where the wind arrived first, and where the mist lingered longest. Most of all, she knew the hill had a pulse. When she pressed her palm into the soil, she could feel a faint, steady warmth rising from below, not hot, not like a hearth, but drowsy and living, the kind of warmth that made seeds brave enough to open. And Sumi, her tiny golden civet, could smell it. Sumi had come to Aya 3 rainy seasons before, no larger than a rolled pair of mittens, with rain dripping from his whiskers and a torn red festival thread caught around one paw. His fur was the color of toasted honey, his belly pale cream, his tail ringed in amber. From the beginning, Sumi was unusual. He did not merely sniff fruit, mushrooms, or mice near the granary. He sniffed weather. Before clouds gathered, he sniffed sadness. Before anyone spoke. Sometimes, when a visitor carried a memory too heavy for their chest, Sumi would sneeze once, softly, and a tiny golden spark would flutter from his nose like a firefly. Grandmother said, civets were old creatures. They walk between the waking world and the dreaming one, she would say, while pouring tea. Their paws are small, but they step where we cannot. Aya loved that thought. She loved it most on quiet evenings, when lamps were lit. Sumi curled in her sleeve, and grandmother told stories that were never quite the same twice. Stories of foxes who traded riddles for persimmons, cranes who folded moonlight into their wings, and a sleeping guardian beneath an unnamed hill, so large and so old that forests grew from his back, while villages dreamed safely above him. Aya had always thought those stories were meant to make winter evenings beautiful. She did not know, not yet, that one of them had roots beneath her very feet, in that quiet corner of the world. The day began. Before the village had remembered itself, a bronze bell sounded. From the little shrine near the cedar grove, the sound traveled gently across terraces, touching roofs, water jars, stone lanterns, sleeping dogs, and folded tea leaves. Aya woke to that bell almost every morning, but on this particular morning, the hush of the hill felt different. She sat up beneath her quilt. The paper window glowed faintly with dawn. Across the room, Sumi's basket was empty. Sumi, she whispered. Downstairs, in the blue shadow of the kitchen, she found him on the windowsill, with his front paws pressed against the screen. His nose worked furiously, his whiskers trembled, his golden tail puffed like a little brush. "Sumi," Aya said softly. "What are you doing?" The civet turned to her with an expression almost offended that she could not smell whatever he smelled. Then his tiny chest rose, his eyes squeezed shut, and he sneezed. A spark fell from his nose. It glowed bright gold as it drifted through the kitchen air and vanished before touching the floor. Aya stared. Sumi sneezed again. 2 sparks leapt free and spun above the cold hearthstones. Aya opened the back door. Morning air entered, smelling of wet stone, cedar bark, and tea leaves folded in sleep. Sumi darted outside before she could stop him. Aya slipped into straw sandals and followed. The path climbed to the upper terraces, then curved along the hillside in a narrow ribbon of stone. Mist wrapped the tea fields. The village roofs below floated in white fog like little boats. Nothing seemed wrong, and yet, beneath that quiet surface, something had changed. Sumi stopped between 2 tea bushes. He lowered his nose to the soil, sniffed, sneezed. A scatter of sparks sprang into the mist. Aya crouched beside him. The ground beneath her fingers was warm, as always, but a thin thread of cold lay across the soil, delicate as winter silk. It felt like touching a cup that had held tea but had been left too long in winter air. The terraces of Kiyomura did not frost. That was the first thing every child learned. Other valleys woke to white fields and frozen buckets. But on Aya's mountain, the tea bushes remained green. Even snow beyond the ridge melted before settling there. The old people called it the mountain's kindness. The practical people called it the springs. Sumi suddenly ran. Aya followed through low branches, mossy steps, an irrigation channel, and a terrace where late leaves trembled beneath beads of mist. At last, he stopped at the base of an old tea bush called Grandfather Root. Its trunk was thick and twisted, far older than the surrounding rows. Its few leaves made tea of extraordinary depth, smoky and sweet, with a finish like warm rain on cedar. Sumi circled Grandfather Root 3 times. Then he began to dig. "Sumi," Aya whispered, "stop that." But he dug harder. Another sneeze shook him, and this time the sparks were not gold. They were blue, pale blue, like the edge of ice at dawn. Then the soil beneath Grandfather Root exhaled. A smell rose from the earth. Not spring water, not roots, not minerals. It smelled of old smoke, unopened flowers, and something vast sleeping in the dark. Aya brushed soil aside. Between the roots lay a narrow seam in the earth, curved like the edge of a buried door. Beneath it was smooth green stone, carved with worn marks, spirals, clouds, and a circle enclosing 3 leaves. At the center was a hollow the size of a human thumb. Sumi placed his nose in the hollow, sneezed. A single gold spark dropped into the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, somewhere beneath the mountain, something answered. A warmth moved upward through the ground, slow and heavy. It rose through Aya's knees and palms, through roots and damp stone. The carved slab trembled once. Then it opened, not like a door swinging wide, but like earth. Remembering a promise, the stone slid inward without sound, revealing a narrow stair descending into darkness. Aya thought of waking grandmother, but the cold thread in the soil touched her fingertips again. She imagined frost spreading quietly through the terraces, silvering leaves, waking villagers to something they had never feared. Beneath that thought came another feeling, a call, as if the hill had been patient for many years, and now, for reasons of its own, had chosen the girl who knew its paths by touch, and the civet who could smell dreams before they rose. Aya tucked Sumi inside her robe. "You stay with me." Then she stepped onto the stair. The stone was warm beneath her sandals. Down she went. The stair curved beneath the hill. Roots slipped through cracks in the walls, hanging like curtains. Droplets fell from their tips with slow, patient sounds. Drip, drip, drip. After several turns, the air changed. It grew warmer, soft as a hearth that had burned all night. Beneath ash, the smell of tea deepened. No longer fresh leaves, but brewed tea, left to steep while rain moved across a roof, along the walls. Tiny pale blossoms grew from the roots, each glowing amber and opening and closing as though breathing. Sumi climbed to her shoulder and purred. The passage widened. Carvings covered the stone. Mountains, tea leaves, clouds, villagers with baskets, and a creature coiled beneath hills. Sumi sneezed. A gold spark toward the carving, and for an instant, Aya saw what time had hidden. A dragon, long-bodied, antlered, whiskered, with folded wings like great fans of cloud. His eyes were closed, and from his nostrils rose curling lines that became mist, rain, and tea leaves. Aya moved on. The passage opened into a cavern so vast and so quiet that she stopped at its threshold. Roots descended from the ceiling in woven strands, and from them grew countless luminous tea blossoms, scattered like stars underground. At the center of the cavern lay the hill's secret. The dragon was enormous at first. He seemed like a ridge. Within the cavern, a green-gold rise of moss, scale, root, and shadow. Then Aya understood the shape of him. A long body, curled in a great spiral, scales half hidden beneath moss and tea plants, a silver mane flowing along his neck, antlers branching into the roots overhead, one folded wing veiled with lichen, immense claws resting gently on the stone floor. His head rested on roots beneath the oldest part of the hill. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow. With every inhale, the cavern drew slightly cooler. With every exhale, warmth moved through the roots, into the soil, into the terraces, into the sleeping tea leaves. Above, the hill did not stay warm because of springs. It stayed warm because a dragon was dreaming. Beneath it, Aya bowed deeply. "Thank you," she whispered. The dragon did not wake. Only the cavern answered with its gentle rhythm. Then Sumi sneezed. This time, the spark was white, cold as starlight. It drifted toward the dragon's face, split into tiny frost crystals, and fell across the roots. Aya saw frost along the dragon's whiskers. It should have melted. It did not. She moved closer. His breath smelled of tea, smoke, and faraway rain. Beneath it was another scent, something lonely, like a room where the hearth had gone out while no one noticed. "Your dreams are cold," Aya whispered. As soon as she said it, she knew it was true. A thin ribbon of mist slipped from the dragon's nostril. Inside it, images moved slowly. A mountain beneath snow, a ring of firelight, human figures gathered at the mouth of a cave, a dragon's shadow passing over them. Then the ribbon turned pale and fell in dream flakes to the floor. Aya caught one in her palm. Before it melted, she saw a face, a child perhaps, or a young man, looking upward with fear and hope. "What happened to you?" she asked. The dragon slept on. Aya explored the cavern's edge, tea roots threaded between the dragon's scales. Moss softened his spine. A stream moved silently near his tail, and everywhere were signs of old care. A dry stone basin near his head, cracked cups on a ledge, faded prayer strips tied to roots, an iron kettle, green with age, near a cold ring of stones. Someone had known, someone had come here with tea. Someone had remembered the warm hill beneath the fields, but not anymore. Aya bowed once more. "I will come back." Above ground, morning had fully arrived. Grandmother waited at the kitchen door, her silver hair pinned neatly, her eyes sharp and dark. "You found something?" Grandmother said. Aya swallowed. "You knew?" "I knew there were old stories," Grandmother answered. "My grandmother told me." Her grandmother told her. But stories fade when people stop needing them. "There is a dragon beneath the hill." Grandmother closed her eyes. Grief, recognition, and apology crossed her face. "So he is still there." Inside the kitchen, Aya told her everything. The sparks, the cold thread, the hidden door, the glowing blossoms, the cavern, the sleeping dragon, the frost on his whiskers. Grandmother listened without interrupting. "When I was a girl," Grandmother said, "my grandmother kept a lantern by the back door. On the first night of winter, she said, it was for the one beneath the hill. Once a year, she brewed tea and poured it at the roots of Grandfather Root. She told me the mountain warmed us because it was loved, and love must be returned before it is taken for granted." "What happened?" Aya asked. "People grew practical. The village prospered. The winter lanterns became decorations. Then memories. Then nothing. I kept the lantern for a while, but I did not know the way below. I thought perhaps the story had become only a story. The dragon's dreams are turning cold." Aya said. Grandmother grew still. "Then frost will come." Outside, they found it, a narrow lace of frost, silvering the upper terrace. It glittered delicately in the sun. Aya touched one leaf. The green beneath was stiff. Sumi sneezed. Blue sparks over it, and the frost melted slowly. "No frost has touched this field since my grandmother's grandmother was young," Grandmother said. Then she placed a hand on Aya's shoulder. There were old instructions. If the hill ever cooled, one must not wake the sleeper harshly. A dragon roused in sorrow may forget which world is real. His dreams must be warmed first. "How?" "With tea," Grandmother said. "But not ordinary tea. A tea made from memory, patience, and forgiveness." Sumi sniffed. The terraces, the hidden roots, the fading frost, the village smoke rising from breakfast fires. Then he sneezed. A spark that floated down the path towards the bamboo grove, and that was when the story began to open in an unexpected way. The morning after Aya found the dragon beneath the hill, the whole mountain seemed to listen. differently. Grandmother spread 3 cloths across the kitchen table. On one lay tea leaves, saved from spring. On another lay dried herbs. On the third lay nothing at all. "What goes there?" Aya asked. "What we do not yet have," Grandmother said. Sumi sneezed. A tiny spark over the empty cloth. "Memory, patience, and forgiveness." Aya asked. Grandmother nodded. "Old words often wear cloaks. Memory may be carried in leaves that have waited through many seasons. Patience may be gathered from dew that has not yet fallen. Forgiveness is harder. It cannot be taken. It must be offered from a lacquered box." Grandmother took a faded paper, a small brass spoon, and a blue silk pouch. "The paper belonged to my grandmother. The spoon belonged to hers. The pouch is for carrying ingredients that are not entirely ingredients." Sumi sneezed again. His spark became a line of light pointing toward the bamboo grove. "Sumi smells the first dream scent," Grandmother said. Aya tied the blue pouch at her waist, tucked the brass spoon into her sash, and followed the golden thread of scent into the terraces. The first place it led was a shaded row where dew lingered longer than anywhere else. The leaves were heavy, with droplets, each holding a tiny version of the morning. Beneath the fresh green scent was something like waiting. Aya knelt and held the brass spoon beneath one large droplet. Nothing happened. She waited. A breeze moved through the bushes. Other drops fell. Her hand grew tired. Sumi sat solemnly beside the leaf. Aya breathed with the hill, slowly in, slowly out. At last, the droplet trembled, lengthened, and fell into the spoon without a sound. The spoon glowed faintly. Aya tipped the dew into the blue pouch, and it vanished inside, as though the pouch opened into a larger place. A ribbon of mist rose from the pouch. Aya saw snow falling on the mountain long ago. Deep snow, relentless snow, covering roofs and fields. Villagers huddled inside, low houses with fires nearly gone. Then warmth moved beneath the ground. Snow softened. Roots stirred far below. A younger dragon curled into the earth like a promise, while villagers placed steaming cups before him so they knew him. Aya whispered. The dream scent led next to the old kettle shed beside the drying room. Every morning during harvest season, the first kettle was lit there before sunrise. Its steam warmed bamboo trays and woke the air before tea leaves arrived. Today, the kettle had already boiled. A thin thread of smoke rose from its spout. Sumi approached, sniffed, and sneezed. The smoke turned gold. "How do I gather smoke?" Aya asked. Sumi exhaled delicately. The smoke bent toward Aya and drifted into the blue pouch, carrying the scent of mornings beyond counting. Harvest mornings, rain mornings, grief mornings, when work had to continue because leaves needed turning and fires needed tending. Another vision came. The cavern was bright with fire bowls. Villagers stood around the younger dragon, tired but relieved. An old woman poured tea into a stone basin. Voices promised, "We will remember every winter as long as tea grows on this hill." Then years passed. Fewer villagers came. Fire bowls were lit once a year. Then once every few years, the basin gathered dust. Only one elderly woman came at last, pouring tea at grandfather root and whispering words. Aya could not hear. Then she too vanished from the dream. The promise was not broken all at once, Aya said. It was forgotten, little by little. The third dream scent led through bamboo toward the listening shrine, a small moss-roofed shelter where wishes were not requests but confessions. Behind it bloomed 7 white flowers, their petals shaped like little cups, turned toward the earth. Warm vapor rose from their centers, petals from flowers that bloom only near dragon breath. Aya whispered. Sumi pawed the ground. Aya brushed leaves aside and found a crack in the stone. Warm air rose through it. Dragon breath had traveled through hidden channels beneath the mountain, emerging beside the shrine. Aya bowed. May I take one petal? The bamboo grove creaked softly. She chose a single petal and placed it in the pouch. This dream came through sound, voices layered across years. Thank you, Great One. Thank you, Mountain Sleeper. Thank you for the warmth. Then fewer voices, then one, then none. The silence that followed was enormous. Aya saw a village celebration above. Lanterns, drums, tea merchants, banners, children dancing. Warmth moved from the sleeping dragon into the roots and up toward the festival. No one came down, no cup was poured, no name was spoken. He is not angry, Aya realized. He is tired, not rage, not punishment. The dragon's cold dreams were the deep tiredness of giving warmth for so long without being known. Aya thought of her own mornings, sweeping ash, carrying water, pruning leaves, turning trays, doing quiet work that vanished when done correctly. She loved the mountain, but sometimes she felt like useful silence, present everywhere, named nowhere. Perhaps that was why the hidden door had opened. When Aya returned home, grandmother had laid the old recipe on the table. When the sleeper's breath grows cold, warm the dream before waking the name. Gather dew that has learned to wait. Gather smoke that remembers the first fire. Gather blossom from the path of breath, deep with leaves that have heard gratitude. Pour not into the mouth, but into the roots. Invite those who have forgotten to remember gently. Grandmother brought down a jar wrapped in indigo cloth. These are from grandfather root, leaves gathered by my grandmother when I was very small. She called them listening leaves. The scent that rose was deep with age. Dry leaves, cedar smoke, stone after rain, persimmons kept through winter. These leaves, grandmother said, heard gratitude. Then the house grew cold, frost patterned. The window outside, voices rose. Aya ran to the terraces and saw frost spreading in silver lace across the upper fields. Villagers stood along the paths, bewildered and hushed. Sumi sneezed. Blue sparks, melting tiny circles of ice. But there was too much, and he was too small. No, Aya whispered, lifting him. Not this way. The villagers turned to her. Grandmother arrived, carrying the listening leaves. The ordinary explanation was gone. Mina, the baker's daughter, asked softly. Aya, what is happening? Aya faced the villagers. There is someone beneath the hill, not a spring, not only stone, an old guardian who has warmed the roots of our tea fields for generations. His dreams are growing cold. The words moved through the people like wind through bamboo. Some looked confused, some disbelieving. Others seemed to recognize something too deep to rise quickly. Old Taro whispered. My mother used to say. Mina murmured. The winter lantern. Grandmother stepped. Beside Aya, it was more than custom, and we have been late in remembering. Aya said, we need to brew tea, not just for the fields, for him. What do we bring? Mina asked. Sumi sniffed. The villagers, one by one, his sparks drifted toward them. Mina promised the first bun from the next bake. Old Taro promised leaves from the western row. His mother once sang to. A child promised a lantern painted with a dragon. A woman promised well water before sunrise. A potter promised cups. A merchant promised old winter banners from his storehouse. Each offering was small. None was enough alone, but together they began to feel like a path. That evening, lanterns appeared along the terraces, amber against silver frost. The mountain became a constellation of human offerings. Above, the ancient sleeper. Far below, so deep, only Aya seemed to feel it. The mountain gave a long, sleeping sigh. The ingredients had been gathered. The village had heard the first part of the truth, but to understand why the dragon's dreams had grown so cold, Aya would have to follow them farther than any waking path. She would have to enter the dream itself. That night, the village did not sleep as it usually slept. Houses were quiet, lamps lowered, shutters drawn, children tucked beneath quilts. Yet the quiet was different. It was a listening quiet. Lanterns glowed along the tea terraces. Their light caught the frost on the leaves and turned it into small stars. Aya stood in grandmother's kitchen, where the blue pouch, the brass spoon, the listening leaves, and the old recipe lay on the low table. Grandmother warmed the kettle. Some teas ask for water that leaps, she said, and some ask for water that only begins to remember fire. Which is this? Aya asked. The second kind. Grandmother placed 3 listening leaves in a clay dish and poured water over them. Steam rose, turned gold, silver, then amber. The room filled with tea, frost, smoke, warm stone, bamboo, rain, loneliness, and hope. Breathe only the steam, grandmother said. Do not drink. This is not the tea. For the body, not yet. Aya bent over the dish. Sumi set his paws on the table. She breathed in. The kettle's whisper became wind across a high mountain. The lamplight thinned. The floor softened into mist. Slowly, almost without noticing, Aya stepped into the dragon's dream. At first, there was only white, snow white, sky white, breath white. Snow fell so thickly that earth and air seemed woven from the same pale cloth. Sumi appeared beside her, walking on snow as if it were wood. He sneezed, a gold spark clearing a path. Aya followed through snow-laden cedars to a clearing where the village of long ago huddled around failing fires. Houses were low and smoke-dark. Tea terraces were rough and newly carved. People stood, thin with cold. Children slept, standing against their mothers. An old woman stepped forward with a lantern. Around her neck hung 3 carved tea leaves. Mountain spirit. She called river sleeper, sky traveler, whoever hears, beneath stone or cloud, we have no command to give, only a plea. Snow fell harder. Then the mountain moved, like something enormous shifting in sleep. Snowflakes froze mid-air, fires rose tall and blue. Above the ridge, a shape unfolded. From cloud, the dragon flew through the storm, younger than the sleeper beneath the hill, yet already ancient, beyond human years. His body, green gold, his mane, silver white, his wings, wide and translucent, each movement stirring snow into spirals. He descended and lowered, one vast amber eye to the old woman. Why do you call one who belongs to cloud and distance? Because the frost has taken our fields, the old woman said. Because children cannot grow warm. Because we have only tea to offer, and our tea will not live through another night. She held up a chipped cup. Steam rose impossibly. The dragon breathed toward it. I have tasted mountain rivers, thunder, pine smoke, and moonlight, but not this. It is little, she said. It is patient, said the dragon. He looked over the failing fires and half-buried tea shrubs. There is warmth beneath stone, he said, but it sleeps too deep for roots to reach. I can carry it upward, for a night, for a season, perhaps for longer. What must you give? Asked the old woman. Distance, said the dragon. The sky was his home. High winds, storm rivers, moonlit clouds. To sleep beneath the hill would cost him flight. The old woman said, No, we will not ask that. But he had already begun to fold his wings. I have flown long, he said. Perhaps there is a kindness in resting where something may grow. If you do this, the old woman whispered, we will remember. Remembering is also warmth, said the dragon. The dream shifted. Snow became rain. Rain became mist. Mist became roots. The dragon sank into the mountain, as if through water. Villagers followed, with lanterns, cups, songs, and tea. For many nights, they visited him. They told him names of children, where they planted rows, what harvest survived. When he finally closed his eyes, it was not loneliness that carried him into sleep. It was trust. Aya followed, the dream deeper. Seasons passed. Spring leaves, summer cicadas, autumn persimmons, winter lanterns, stone steps replaced, muddy slopes. The terraces widened. Kiyomura prospered. Tea traveled to far towns. The dragon slept beneath it all, breathing warmth through roots. Each winter, fewer villagers came, not because he failed them, because he did not. The fields stayed green. So urgency faded. Gratitude became habit. Habit became ritual. Ritual became a story. The story became a decoration painted on a banner. The banner was rolled away because a merchant's seal looked cleaner. No cruelty, only erosion, the soft wearing away of memory. Aya saw one woman come alone into the cavern, silver beginning in her hair, carrying a lantern and tea. She knelt by the dragon's head. I am sorry, fewer come, she whispered. The children know the lantern songs. Some of them I will teach my daughter. She will teach hers. Something will remain. Years later, the same woman returned, older and slower. I do not know, she said. If anyone will come after me, leaning her forehead against one great scale, she whispered. You are loved, even when we are foolish, even when we forget how to say it. Her lantern went out. The dream darkened. Aya found herself on a ridge above moonlit Kiyomura. Beside her stood the dragon, not sleeping now, but dream-walking, moss-darkened scales, tea blossoms in his antlers, folded wings, hanging like curtains, long, unopened, his amber eye turned toward her. You are the tea child. Aya bowed. My name is Aya. Names are cups, said the dragon. They hold what might otherwise spill away. The little dream smeller found the door, he said, of Sumi. Sumi smelled your dreams turning cold. Aya replied, I tried to keep them warm. You did. You still do. Do they know? The question was so quiet. Aya almost wished he had asked anything else. She could have lied, but old dreams do not heal by being lied to. They are beginning to remember, she said. Beginning, he repeated, without anger, only exhaustion. Aya told him she had seen the old winter and what he gave. The dragon looked toward the sky. For many years, I dreamed of waking, he said, when the hill was safe, when roots were strong, when people no longer needed my breath. Every winter, I thought I would open my eyes and they would be there. Lanterns, tea, songs, children grown into elders. I thought they would say, you have slept long enough. Come see what your warmth has grown. His voice faded, but each year I slept. The footsteps grew fewer, the songs grew thinner. Their words rose to me through roots, and my name was not among them. I am sorry, Aya said. Are you the one who forgot? No. Then why do you carry the sorrow as if it is your basket? Aya thought of her own baskets, her own quiet work, her own wish that the mountain would turn and say her name. I think, she said softly, because I understand a little. Sometimes I love the mountain, and sometimes I wish the mountain would turn and say my name. The dragon lowered his head until his whiskers touched the snow. Near her sandals, Aya, he said. Her name moved through the dream with such care that tears rose at once. The dragon spoke of fearing waking, of becoming only weather. To them, a fortunate hill, a useful silence. Every cold dream was a question he did not wish to ask. Am I still loved if I am no longer remembered? Am I still myself if my name is gone? If I wake and no one is waiting, what was all my sleeping for? Aya said, I do not think love disappears the moment people forget how to speak it, but I think it becomes colder unless someone tends it. The dragon watched her. The village has been careless, she said, but not empty. Tonight they lit lanterns. Tomorrow they will come, not because the fields are useful, because you are there. Perhaps, he said, you are afraid to believe it. Yes, the hidden heart of the story lay there. Not anger, not a curse, only a guardian who had given so much that waking felt more frightening than sleeping. The tea cannot be brewed only by me, Aya said. It has to be brewed with the villages remembering. For one breath, the dragon's breath, came warm, without cold. I do not know how to wake gently, he said. Then don't wake yet. Let us warm the dream first. And forgiveness. I do not know if forgiveness is forgetting the hurt. Aya said, maybe forgiveness is when warmth is allowed to return, even though the cold was real. If they come, said the dragon, I will try to hear them. Aya bowed, and if you can hear them, perhaps you will remember that you were never only useful. The dream trembled. The dragon's voice came deep and fading. Bring the tea to the roots. We will. Bring their voices. Yes, bring your name too. Tea child. I will. The dream folded inward. Aya saw the young dragon flying over moonlit mountains. The old woman lifting a chipped cup. Grandmother, as a girl, watching a lantern. Sumi arriving, rain-soaked, in the tea shed, and Aya herself, kneeling among leaves before dawn. Then the images became steam. The steam became lamplight, and Aya opened her eyes in the kitchen. The tea is not only for the dragon. Aya said, no. Grandmother replied, it is for the village too. Yes, and maybe, Aya whispered, for anyone who has ever become invisible by caring. That night, villagers came, one by one, with offerings. Mina's first bun, old taros, remembered song, imperfect cups from the potter, a child's lantern, a mended bell rope, an old banner, apologies, memories, and small, embarrassed acts of gratitude. By midnight, the kitchen was full of quiet offerings. Before sleep took her, Aya whispered her own name into the dark. Aya, then another, Sumi, and last, she left a warm space for the dragon's forgotten name. By late afternoon, the mountain had become very still, not silent. Tea country was never truly silent. Water moved through narrow channels. Bamboo whispered, sparrows tucked beneath eaves, and a wooden gate tapped gently in the wind. But the stillness was deeper than sound. It was the stillness of a place waiting to be addressed by its true name. All day, Kiyomura moved with unusual care. People harvested only what needed harvesting. At the well, they bowed before carrying jars away. In the drying shed, hands turned leaves without hurry. Even children ran less wildly, sensing that something old and important had entered the day. Aya and grandmother prepared the large iron kettle, the imperfect cups, the listening leaves, the blue pouch, and the offerings. Grandmother said, gratitude is not payment, it is relationship. Remembered, as the sun lowered, villagers gathered near grandfather root. They came in small groups with lanterns, cups, folded paper strips, and faces that showed they had brought something inward, memory, apology, or the willingness to learn that the world had been kinder to them than they knew. Sumi leapt down between the roots. He sniffed the soil once, twice, then sneezed. A warm white spark fell into the carved hollow. The earth remembered. The hidden door opened. The stair descended into amber darkness. No one moved. At first, then grandmother bowed. Aya bowed. The villagers followed awkwardly and sincerely, relearning a gesture their bones had once known. Grandmother handed the empty kettle to Aya. You go first. For a moment, Aya felt the child. She had been carrying too many leaves, trying not to ask for praise. Then she remembered the dragon speaking her name. She accepted the kettle and stepped down into the hill, lantern by lantern. The villagers followed. The stair felt different, with others behind her. The roots brushed sleeves and shoulders. Droplets fell in patient rhythm. Underground blossoms opened brighter with each breath and lantern flame. The carvings appeared along the walls, mountains, tea leaves, clouds, figures with baskets, and the great dragon coiled beneath the hill. Old Taro touched one carving. My mother drew this shape in flour on New Year's morning. I thought it was just for luck. The merchant saw the carved steam curling from the dragon's nostrils and looked at the banner in his arms. I sold the symbol, he murmured. I never knew whose breath it was. At last, they entered the cavern. The dragon lay curled in his ancient spiral. Moss softened his shoulders. Tea plants grew between his scales. His antlers vanished into the roots overhead, where thousands of pale blossoms trembled. His breathing moved through the cavern. Warm, cool, warm, cool. The cold thread was still there. Frost silvered the roots around his whiskers, but when the villagers entered, his breath deepened. Aya placed the kettle on the old ring of stones. The woodcutter added cedar chips. The shrine keeper brought a coal from the village hearth. Mina added straw from the bakery oven. The widow offered a shaving from her late husband's walking stick. The fire took slowly. Aya filled the kettle with spring water gathered before sunrise. Water into iron, memory into waiting. No one spoke. While it warmed, Aya opened the blue pouch. The fragrance rose, patient dew, first kettle smoke, dragon breath blossom, snow, sorrow, and return. She took the old listening leaves, then old taros, elder leaves, and placed them in the teapot. The kettle began to whisper, not boil, whisper. Aya poured. The water struck the leaves, and the cavern filled with tea, green and roasted, floral and smoky, old and new at once. It smelled of work before dawn, lanterns in frost, hands around cups, and words almost forgotten, but not beyond. Returning, steam rose, and within it the villagers saw the ancient winter, the young dragon descending through snow, the old woman with the lantern, the first cup offered, the dragon folding his wings and choosing the hill when the tea was ready. Grandmother handed Aya the first cup. Aya did not drink. She poured it into the old stone basin. Steam lifted toward the dragon's nostrils, and frost along one whisker melted into droplets. A murmur passed through the villagers. Aya poured more tea into the roots near the dragon's head. The roots drank it. At once, pale gold light moved along them. The dragon's closed eyelids trembled. Sumi curled beside the dragon's nose and began to purr. When warm breath rose, his fur rippled. When cold appeared, he sneezed a soft white spark into it. The spark did not fight. The cold, it warmed it, gently, like hands around a chilled cup. It is time, grandmother said. One by one, the villagers stepped forward. The shrine keeper bowed for the warmth beneath our houses. Thank you, the villagers whispered. Mina placed the first bun near the basin for bread that rose in winter kitchens for mornings we thought were ordinary. Thank you, old Taro stepped forward. For my mother's song and for the row I forgot to listen to. He sang the line he remembered. Others joined, adding missing lines. The melody filled itself slowly, not perfectly, but enough. A harvest song, a winter song, a song for leaves that sleep but do not die. The potter offered cups for every imperfect vessel that still knows how to hold warmth. Thank you, the widow whispered. for the quiet ones, those who keep fires, mend roofs, boil water, remember birthdays, sweep thresholds, and are not always seen. The cavern became very still. Aya felt those words move through her. The merchant unfolded his cleaned banner. I used your gift without knowing its giver. I cannot repay you, but I can stop calling your breath by lesser names. He bowed until the banner touched stone. Thank you. This time, when the villagers repeated the words, they were stronger, not loud, never loud, but whole. Thank you. The cavern warmed. All along the dragon's body, tiny tea blossoms opened between moss and scales. The ceiling answered, blossoms unfolding among the roots, like stars returning to a sky that had forgotten night. Aya held the final cup. She knew it was hers, because the dream had asked her to bring her name. She stepped close to the dragon's face and bowed for the warmth beneath my feet. For the mornings I thought I worked alone, for the care no one sees until it disappears, for the fear of waking and finding no one waiting. Sumi opened one eye. My name is Aya. I am a grower of tea on the hill. You warned. I am here. We are here. The final frost crystal melted. Aya poured the cup into the roots beneath the dragon's cheek. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the dragon sighed. It was so deep and gentle that the whole mountain seemed to exhale. Roots trembled. Lantern flames leaned inward. The tea in the basin rippled far above. Perhaps every leaf on every terrace turned slightly toward the soil. The dragon breathed in and out, warm, only warm, not fierce, not blazing, just warm, like a hearth, well tended, like sun, stored in stone, like a quilt, drawn over a sleeping child. Then, through the roots, came a sound, not speech, exactly, but everyone heard it, in the place where gratitude is understood before language. I remember you. Some villagers wept quietly. Grandmother covered her face. Aya closed her eyes. The words were for the village and for her and for the dragon himself, the sky traveler, the guardian beneath stone, the one who had given warmth, the one who had been loved, forgotten, and invited gently back into remembrance. Sumi sneezed in his sleep. A gold spark landed on the dragon's nose. The dragon's nostril twitched. For one tender moment, it seemed he might wake, but he did not. Instead, the corners of his great mouth softened into something, almost like a smile. The villagers poured the remaining tea into the basin, and roots, tea into stone, warmth into roots, memory into earth. Above them, blossoms opened so brightly that night became a garden of stars. Petals drifted down like slow, warm snow, dissolving when they touched shoulders, hair, sleeves, and hands. Where each petal vanished, it left a feeling, a remembered song, a winter lantern, a cup held in both hands, a name spoken kindly. After a long while, the villagers began to leave. They bowed to the dragon, one by one. Some left cups near the basin, some tied prayer strips to roots. The child with the lantern placed it near Sumi, who remained curled beside the dragon's nose. At last, Aya and grandmother stood alone near the basin. Will he wake someday? Aya asked. Perhaps, grandmother said, when waking feels less lonely than sleep. He knows. We came. Yes. Grandmother replied, and that changes the shape of sleep. When Aya emerged from the hidden stair, night had fully settled over Kiyomura. The terraces were washed in moonlight. The frost was gone. Every tea leaf shone dark and supple. Beneath the lanterns, warm mist rose from the soil. The villagers waited above, looking past Aya toward the warm breath rising from below. Old Taro knelt and touched the soil. Others followed, because gratitude sometimes teaches the body what to do before the mind arranges the words. In the days that followed, Kiyomura changed quietly. No proclamation, no noisy festival, no sudden perfection. People still forgot errands, burned rice, argued over water schedules, worried about prices, complained about rain. But beneath ordinary life, something warmer had returned. Each morning, someone placed a cup of tea beneath grandfather root. Sometimes Aya, sometimes Mina, sometimes old Taro, singing under his breath. Sometimes a child, solemn with the importance of not spilling. The cavern remained warm. The dragon slept peacefully. Sumi often disappeared for hours and returned, smelling of moss, tea blossoms, and ancient breath. Sometimes he sneezed, gold sparks in his sleep. The dragon's name did not return all at once. Lost names are like old paths under vines. They reveal themselves through repeated walking, a syllable in a song, a mark beneath the basin, a sound in the shrine bell. Aya did not rush it. She had learned not to hurry old magic. As for Aya, she was not freed from work. Tea still needed tending, leaves needed gathering, fires needed watching, paths needed sweeping. After rain, care did not become less necessary because it had finally been seen, but it became lighter. The same basket felt different when someone said, Aya, the upper row looks strong because of your pruning. The same morning felt different when Mina left a warm bun near the drying shed. The same evening softened when grandmother poured tea and said, sit, the mountain can wait for one cup. The tea from Kiyomura changed too. Some said it had a deeper finish. Some said it tasted warm even when cooled. Some said drinking it made them remember someone they had meant to thank. The village did not explain fully. Some truths are not secrets, but they are not commodities either. They are tended. Aya became known as the keeper of the warm hill. The title embarrassed her at first, but grandmother said titles need not make a person grand. Sometimes they simply help others remember where to bring questions. Years later, travelers climbing the mountain road at dusk might see lanterns glowing along the terraces. When no festival was marked on any calendar, they might hear a low bell from the cedar grove and smell tea, smoke, sweet buns, damp stone, and the green breath of leaves settling into night. If they asked what occasion was being honored, villagers would smile and say, the hill is warm, we are remembering. And if a traveler was especially quiet, respectful, and approved by a certain golden civet, they might be invited to place a hand on the soil beneath grandfather root. There, they would feel it, a gentle warmth rising from below, not the heat of springs, not the accident of stone, a sleeping warmth, a dragon's warmth. And now, as our story settles toward its close, imagine the mountain once more. Night has fallen softly over Kiamura. Mist rests in the lower terraces. The tea leaves are dark and glossy beneath the moon. A lantern glows beneath the oldest tea bush. In grandmother's kitchen, the kettle whispers. Old Taro's song still seems to linger faintly among the paths. Aya stands at the edge of the upper field, with Sumi curled in her arms. Her hands still smell of leaves and soil. Her shawl is still patched, but she no longer feels like useful silence. She feels like part of a living promise. Sumi lifts his head and sniffs the night. No blue sparks, no cold thread, only warm roots, sleeping blossoms, and peaceful dreams. Below the terraces, beneath stone, moss, cups, and glowing flowers, the dragon sleeps. His breath moves through the mountain. In, out, warm, warm, warm. Aya smiles and presses her palm to the soil. Good night, she whispers. The mountain receives it all the same, and somewhere beneath the roots, the ancient sleeper dreams not of being forgotten, not of winter, not of waking alone beneath a changed sky, but of lanterns, tea steam, small golden paws, and a village waiting gently above him. So let the terraces fade now into mist. Let the lanterns burn low. Let the kettle quiet. Let the old dragon breathe warmth into the sleeping earth. In that quiet corner of the world, the leaves are safe. The frost has melted, and every root remembers the way back to warmth. And you, too, may rest, for the hill is warm beneath you. The night is gentle around you, and somewhere, not so far from dreams, a golden civet is listening for anything cold that needs to be softened before morning.